morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. Happy Wednesday morning, I think.
Is it? I thought it was Thursday, and then my mind was like, but that's your Friday. So
it's Wednesday.
No, stay with me one more day. So, coming up on Rising, I'll be discussing how rural areas could be hurt by Republicans cutting funding for public broadcasting.
Also, more Democratic infighting, this time between Hunter Biden and the former Obama aides.
And Stephen Colbert is taking shots at his own bosses over their decision to cancel his show. But first, Robby, what is on your radar?
Let's get to it. President Donald Trump is furious with former President Barack Obama, whom he is accusing of participating in a, quote, coup against him in 2016. Trump is referring, of course, to recent disclosures from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, who has released documents showing it was Obama who encouraged intelligence officials to reach stronger conclusions about Russia's alleged meddling in the 2016 election. Now, according to Gabbard, the intelligence community was well aware that Russia did not hack voting machines, nor did the country have much impact on the outcome at all. But Trump's enemies in the Democratic Party wanted to paint him as a Russian collaborator, and so they overreached. The media, of course, followed suit, publishing headline after headline suggesting that Trump was a Russian stooge. Here is President Trump reacting to the latest news.
Now, we found absolute, this isn't like evidence, this is like proof, irrefutable proof, that Obama was seditious, that Obama was trying to lead a coup, and it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people, but Obama headed it up. And, I get a kick when I hear everyone talks about people I never even heard of. It was this one. No, it was Obama. He headed it up. And it says so right in the papers.
These allegations are extremely serious. Now, it's far too premature, in my view, to throw around the word treason. In fact, I don't like when anybody, Republican or Democrat, starts accusing their opponents of that. This reads less like treason to me and more like political weaponization of national intelligence for partisan purposes, which sadly has become a recurring theme. Make no mistake, there was an effort to delegitimize Trump's election to the presidency, and the argument was made by mainstream media mouthpieces leveraging the expertise of deep state spy masters. Former Democratic presidents Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Carter both said Trump was an illegitimate president in response to media reporting on Russia's meddling. This was the original stolen election theory. It's only been overshadowed because Trump's false contention that the 2020 election was stolen has subsequently received much more media coverage and much more vigorous pushback. Let me be perfectly clear. Trump should have never claimed that the 2020 election was stolen from him, but he's in good company. Look at the Democrats who said the same thing about 2016. And their main theory backing that up was Russian malfeasance, something intelligence officials privately discounted until they went to the White House and had a chat with outgoing President Barack Obama.
Deflection is the name of the game here.
Deflection.
Yes,
we're deflecting.
The
deflector shields are up.
No, at that same press conference, the reporters asked President Trump, well, speaking of the Department of Justice, what's going on with Epstein?
Okay.
What's going on with your team meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell? What is going on with your team what's the conversation going to be like? Don't have these files released, be on our side. We're going to pardon you in a couple of years. There's a lot going on over here. And he's like, look at Obama. 20 years old, story time. Like, nobody cares about this story.
Not true.
But a bipartisan committee...
You're deflecting.
No, a bipartisan committee agreed that Russia was involved and not about the voting machines. That was never the source of what the bipartisan committee was mostly looking for. It's that they tried to infiltrate American minds and really in that way tried to infiltrate our democracy.
Infiltrate American minds?
Yes, by infiltrating our...
It's like,
no, not like
this is
also,
insane.
is it worth relitigating or is it worth deflecting for him right now?
We're not relitigating, we're litigating it for the first time.
No, okay, is it worth opening up a new conversation calling this, he's been calling this a hoax, right? So is it worth bringing it back to the forefront when there are core issues for your base that people want answers to? This seems like a huge deflection. You know it. You can't even sit here with a straight face and say you don't think this is, this has nothing to do with the present moment. No one is calling for this.
We will address that's not true that no one's calling for this. This has been a major conservative issue, MAGA issue for years. The Epstein stuff is important, and we will get to it. We're going to talk about that next. So let's put a little pin in that because we're going to come back to it. I don't like how it's being handled either. We agree somewhat there. But Russiagate was a big deal for years. The 2016 to 2018, 2019 period involved ceaseless. You forget how constant it was. If you could not watch 5 minutes of MSNBC without Rachel Maddow and everybody else going further into what started to sound like almost conspiratorial waters about the level of influence Russia had had on the election, and that was the reason for Trump's foreign policy with respect to Russia, was because it was a payback to Vladimir Putin. That was not a conspiracy. I thought it was a conspiracy theory, but it was mainstream. It went mainstream based on the intelligence officials, what they were saying to the media, often behind closed doors. So now we know. So this is why this is important, because now we know they went to Obama and said there's not a lot to this, and Obama said, find me a different conclusion. I don't, treason, no. Weaponization of what should be nonpartisan agencies, intelligence officials, for the partisan purpose of undermining Trump.
This is far from being a partisan attack. What about the 1,000-page final report that came from the bipartisan Senate committee that looked into this? There was an agreement that Russia had a coordinated, very sophisticated aim at being sophisticated. Yeah, squarely at supporting Trump. So do you want Russia involved, whether it's bots or real Russian people trying to get people to support Trump more? Well, what is that connection?
First of all, not supporting Trump, undermining Hillary Clinton maybe, not necessarily supporting Trump.
Well, I think necessarily supporting Trump, because by undermining Hillary Clinton, what happens? You support Trump,
but
he wins the election.
I'm a voter who doesn't like Hillary Clinton and was happy to, and I guess I undermined her too by advocating against her.
No, because
I did not vote for Trump or advocate that people vote for Trump.
You're not intentionally developing a relationship with the President of the United States and a foreign leader or adversary. Yes, they are. There was conversations about what his relationship was with Putin. There still is those conversations. I think the relationship has soured in recent years, but what it was in 2016 is very valid to look into it and say, what are you guys doing here? Why would you want help from a foreign... Well, why would you want help from a foreign aid? From foreign assistance when we in America make our own decisions, right? I agree that Americans are brilliant and can make their own decisions, but I also agree that we should all be on the same page and not wanting foreign bots or people infiltrating our social media and trying to convince people that Trump is the best. What's your end game? What is their connection to the results? We have to ask that question, right? What's the connection to wanting Trump to be president?
If they want to waste their money on every dollar they spend on a bot on Facebook, if that's fewer dollars spent on paying for guns to shoot Ukrainians, fine. I mean, who cares? It didn't do anything. It didn't accomplish anything. That is the great, that is the conspiracy unmasked, is the idea that this was like a mind control thing, and that voters in the key swing states flipped their position because they had Russian mind control being beamed into them. It's something out of science fiction. It's not the case. It was actually an example of social media type people were overstating the importance or the way the algorithm functions. And look how much information we can narrowly tailor it so you can get exactly the message in front of the people you want. That has led to this kind of technology-driven panic about how vast that power is. No, it's not. It's just campaigning. It's just advertising. It's not mind control. People make independent judgments, and it is drowned out by all the other noise.
Let's say I just listened to the fact that it's just campaigning, and we don't mind Russia influence deciding if they are likening themselves to one president or the other one. Is this going anywhere? Is this worth American taxpayers' time and money to continue to look into something that is done? It's an old issue. Obama is not going to jail. So for the same person that cried witch hunt on the campaign trail for an entire year,
that's a bit rich from the Democratic Party that has tried to put Trump in jail for years.
But he said it was poor strategy, so why would he reflect it? Don't be a mirror to something that you hated. That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
so at least the party should be okay. Well, then that is not the president that you should want. Somebody who seeks revenge all day for the entire.
They're going to try to put him in jail, and he should just cry about it, not do anything about it, just be sad.
He should lead the country in a time where we need leadership.
All right. Well, he should lead the country. Next up, Pod Save America co-hosts are firing back at Hunter Biden's tirade against them. We'll be right back. Former Obama aides are firing back at Hunter Biden after he went scorched earth on them during an interview with YouTuber Andrew Callahan. Pod Save America co-hosts Tommy Vitor, John Favreau, and John Lovett shot back at Biden over these comments. Let's watch.
The Pod Save America saviors of the Democratic Party, with four white millionaires that are dining out on their association with Barack Obama from 16 years ago, living in Beverly Hills, telling the rest of the world what black voters in South Carolina really want. or what the women in the waitress living outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin really believes.
The co-hosts addressed the comments on their podcast yesterday. Let's take a look.
One thing we know is that Hunter Biden, throughout Joe Biden's presidency, was a terrible liability for him. And put the addiction aside, it is because he was on Burisma, because he became an artist, because he was part of a kind of like sleazy Washington that, as Tommy said, people hated. You were a liability. You should be ashamed of the ways in which you made your father's political life worse. And like the idea that we're going to listen to you now, like give me a break. It's ridiculous.
They also took to social media to air their grievances. Beater fired back, writing, quote, "It's good to see that Hunter has taken some time to process the election, look inward and hold himself accountable for how his family's insular, dare I say arrogant at times, approach to politics led to this catastrophic outcome we're all living with." Favreau made a dig at Hunter's new career in art, saying, quote, "There goes my bid on that painting."
The former president's son also went on a full-blown tirade over individuals that he says turned their back on his dad during the 2024 election. Other individuals Biden name-dropped were actor George Clooney, Democratic strategist James Carville, and CNN host Jake Tapper. We discussed this yesterday. It was a just beautifully entertaining 2 or 3 hours of Hunter Biden swearing constantly about these people. We got to be really careful because we're on TV now.
Right.
What we can do. It was a good job to our team for doing all the appropriate bleeping as we played that. So the people he attacked are now weighing in. The Pod Save America bros. I don't care for them very much either. I will say, as entertaining as it was to watch Hunter Biden attack them and others, they are absolutely correct that Hunter Biden was a liability for his dad, that made Joe Biden's reelection less likely, that got his dad into all sorts of embarrassing stuff, not just because of the drug abuse issues, which I'm sympathetic to. I know people who've struggled with addiction. It's hard. I don't want to crucify him for that. I think some of the legal issues he had over that and the gun I didn't care about so much. I did care about the tax evasion and then the influence peddling, allegedly, was what we really would have wanted to get more information on. And that, just his corrupt, that he got his positions for having the name Biden was obvious. So he's going to now be like an advisor, like a political expert. Like, here's what we should have done. What we should have done was stick by my father, someone who was historically unpopular, who was cruising toward a landslide defeat, and is mad that the establishment turned on him. The establishment of the Democratic Party is really bad and really flawed in a lot of ways, but their flaw was sticking to Biden for too long. I mean, he was going to lose by a landslide.
I mean, I agree with the scorched earth thing that we watched was very extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
Because everyone just caught strays. It's like you never worked in.
This is the liberal Joe Rogan. Yeah. I just want Hunter Biden to have a podcast where he just swears.
Yeah, it was
and
insane.
Talks about, I guess, how to make drugs. He also talks in great detail about how to make drugs.
But the most fascinating thing, I had two feelings. The first feeling was, okay, this is like almost like if you think about having like a brat child that just wants the best for their parents. But except Hunter Biden is a grown man, and way past child age. So I was like, oh, my daughter was like rallying for me in that way. That would be beautiful to see, right?
Yay,
it's
Mom,
like you have no sense
of
reality. Just like, no, my mom's the best. But at the same time, it's like, Hunter, you have to just step back and be aware. Just look around at your privilege and your life and the lens with which you speak from. Have you no self-awareness to look into this moment as your dad is not only struggling to fight for what his legacy will be because of all the reports that came out about his health now, about the current unfortunate cancer diagnosis and all the things your family is going through, with your mom being the rock of the family, but you're coming out and just making it worse. You're just making it worse. Some part of me believes, because there is always a chance that Biden wanted him to say this, but I think a lot of me believes that this is never where he wanted him to do. He doesn't want him to go on a PR campaign on his behalf. I think he just wants people to leave him alone at this point and stop trying to look back at his presidency and continue to point to what may or may not have went wrong. And there has to be an opportunity for Democrats to like disassociate a bit from Biden and figure out what their next strategy is. And the more that we have conversations with people like Hunter Biden, the more that Biden's name continues to come up, because Republicans already do it enough. Trump already does it enough. We don't need to continue to bring up Biden for every single thing. There's a new wave and opportunity to build what that wave will look like. And Hunter is unfortunately in the way and very arrogant in this behavior. I think knowing all the circumstances that just surrounded him, from the drama he might have caused for his dad's life, but also the fact that you recently got pardoned. So also maybe just sit tight for a minute, be a little quiet, have a quiet moment at home. This is just kind of like, you know, the funniness, once that wears away, it's a little bit embarrassing.
So the audacity to accuse Tommy Vitor and Jon Favreau and John Lovett of only being important or influential because of their association with Barack Obama, of like riding Barack Obama's coattails. The audacity.
That's what I said, self-awareness.
Biden owes his entire elevation to the presidency due to being picked, selected, taken out of not exactly obscurity. He was a long presence in the Senate, but he was one senior Democratic statesman among many, elevated to the role of the number 2 guy by Barack Obama. Right. His ties to Barack Obama are what got him to the presidency in the first place. Hunter points to that he was, we know how to win elections because we won it in the Senate over and over again. Yeah, the Delaware Senate, but that's nothing. That doesn't speak to some great insight you have, and also you weren't responsible for that at all. It's just hilarious. Obama made the careers of these people and of Joe Biden. Right. And he would have just continued to be. When Joe Biden ran for president against Barack Obama, his campaign went nowhere. And when he ran decades before that, he had to drop out because of he plagiarized a speech, allegations of that from a British political figure. So this was not someone who had tremendous
rising star to be president,
tremendously politically gifted until Barack Obama did for him what he did for Pod Save America people. So it's that's the pot calling the kettle black there.
Literally. We don't agree about much, but this is one of those times where I just think there is an opportunity that is every day that passes like a dropped ball for an opportunity to have real conversations with people that are thinking about what the party looks like next and what this new version of the party looks like. I mean, some people are thinking about it. We interviewed about Project 2029, which is the Democrats' response to Project 2025. So I guess there are conversations happening, but let us know, let the American public know what the strategy is, because people are looking to see, since Trump has dropped the ball in many ways, and American people have told you what they felt over his first 100 days, and now all the different things that he's done, that he's promised and not done. Actually, it's a great opportunity for a campaign to begin about what you would do differently if you were president, and we're not hearing anything, or what you would do differently if you ran Congress, and we're not hearing much. So that's unfortunate.
Well, I don't think we've moved out of the Hunter Biden phase yet. He seems quite happy to go on podcast. We should have him on Rising.
I would love to have Hunter on here.
We'll have our people call your people, and we'll set it up. That would be lovely.
Next up on Rising, Speaker Mike Johnson is shutting down the House early just to avoid a vote on the Epstein files. Don't go anywhere.
Speaker Mike Johnson has decided to shut down the House early, which means there won't be an Epstein files vote, unfortunately.
Johnson accused Democrats of trying to weaponize the, quote, very serious Epstein issue. The speaker also said he was trying to give the Trump administration space to release any further info on their own.
Here's Johnson yesterday.
What we refuse to do is participate in another one of the Democrats' political games. This is a serious matter. We are not going to let them use this as a political battering ram. The Rules Committee became the ground for them to do that. We're not going to allow them to engage in that charade anymore.
Congressman Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna both pushed back on Johnson's decision. Take a look.
They need to remember this was a promise of the Attorney General, a promise of the Vice President, a promise of the President's own children, and we got to follow through with this. The White House isn't always right.
It's shocking. I mean, it's just what people hate about Washington. They're literally adjourning Congress because they don't want to face the voters.
Meanwhile, the DOJ has announced they've reached out to former Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell for a meeting. Maxwell's lawyer said that her team was in discussion with the government and that Maxwell will always testify truthfully. That would be very interesting to hear more from her.
That meeting is that's not a good thing.
We're we're shutting down the house. Nothing to
Okay,
see
let's go-
here.
okay.
No more things going on.
For somebody who I told you openly, I was never interested in this until it did become the charade.
Well,
the
that's the
exact
motto
charade
of the Democratic Party.
No, that's not the motto. But
Yeah.
I think that
they weren't
for me
interested when they had
personally-
any power over it.
No, I mean, I wasn't interested in continuing to follow the story along and buy into the conspiracy theories and whether or not which politicians or people were on the list. I wasn't that wrapped up in the story. However, the fact that there's so much like, don't worry about it. This is irrelevant. How could you dare you talk about this? Like the way that the attitudes are so all over the place, I'm extremely fascinated now. And I think now America is captivated. Even people who didn't want the files released are like, listen, you need to share something because this looks insane.
So here's the deal. Everyone on both sides of the political spectrum, aside from Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, are now engaged in a tremendous amount of hypocrisy on this issue, making it partisan when it ought not to be. But, you know, I will speak directly to Speaker Johnson here. This position you are taking is not a tenable one. The promise to release more information about the Epstein files was ironclad, was made not exactly by Trump himself, but by so many of his surrogates, including Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and others, and J.D. Vance and others. It was a clearly communicated promise, and it was predicated on knowledge. Even as they took power, with Pam Bondi, she not just implied, stated, the way she structured the release of the files, that she had new information and you were going to get it. And for them to now say, nothing to see here, and we're done talking about this, and we will circumvent the legislative process to keep back information, that is not going to work. That cannot be sold to MAGA. The base is not that stupid. I'm sorry that you are treating them like they're idiots and they will just be distracted by some other shiny object. That's not the case. This is the base is turning on Trump over this more than anything else. I'm not saying it's the most important issue in the world, and I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with their assertion that there isn't much else here. But if that's the case, they did this all wrong by promising more. You promised more, and now to say there's not more, it's not going to work, my friends. Can't do it.
Completely agree. And also the sheer audacity to know that the House is going to break and recess even earlier when Americans are still thinking about the economy and so many things. And there are real bills and opportunities for bipartisan conversations to happen before most people get on their own summer breaks.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild to consider.
Maybe they could go on break and not come back.
I mean, they have gotten a historically low number of bills passed in this Congress. So the fact that there was a little bit of bipartisan conversation here and still nothing being done is also unfortunate for Americans that are like, okay, we were on the same page for one thing. So up next, the longtime editor-in-chief of NPR has stepped down. I have some things to say about that in my lens coming up. Stick around.
Welcome back, and now it's time for Lindsey's Lens. What have you got for us today, my friend?
Yeah, I'm still riled up about NPR. So this week, NPR's editor-in-chief and acting chief content officer, Edith Chapin, announces that she's stepping down, a decision that she says was entirely her own. But the timing couldn't feel more symbolic. Her resignation comes just days after Congress voted to eliminate all $1.1 billion in federal funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which supports NPR and PBS. And while NPR itself doesn't heavily rely on these federal dollars, the same can't be said for its member stations, which are especially in those rural areas where the grants really keep the lights on. Now, this, to me, isn't just a media story. It's a story about who gets to stay informed and who gets left behind. Let's start with Chapin. During her time at NPR, she didn't just hold a title, she elevated the newsroom. She led the charge to hire senior editors, specifically tasked with ensuring fairness, accuracy, and balance across NPR's reporting. In a time when media bias has become, let's say, a political football, Chapin doubled down on journalistic standards, which is important. She once said, quote, "We need to hear from all kinds of people, and that is our job. We need to be as clear and transparent as we possibly can be, and our audiences can decide how useful we are for them." Her departure is a loss for public journalism at a moment when it's already under siege. Now let's talk about that funding cut. It's a move that's small-minded and short-sighted. Here's why I think so. First, rural communities will be hit the hardest. Small stations don't have access to the same corporate donors and big sponsors as big city outlets. Without federal funding, they risk shutting down entirely, meaning cutting off access to local news, weather alerts, and educational programming for some. Second, Public media is a lifeline. It's not a luxury. Nearly 3 in 4 Americans, 3 in 4, rely on public radio for public safety updates. It's also the home of beloved shows. Yes, I have a toddler, like Sesame Street and Daniel Tiger, especially for families who cannot afford streaming platforms. And there are people out there. So third, not everyone has Wi-Fi. Lawmakers arguing that public media is, quote, obsolete, forget that rural broadband is still unreliable in many parts of the country. Radio is still a reliable source of information that many Americans are using. This funding cut also defies the original purpose of public broadcasting, which was meant to provide unbiased educational content for all Americans. So stripping it away because of perceived political slights, that's retaliation, that's not policy. So yes, Edith Chapin may have chosen to leave, but we all lose something when a principled journalist walks away in the shadow of a system that's being dismantled. And what's at stake isn't just news, it's access, it's education, and I think it's equity.
We have discussed this before, so you know that I disagree with you. I disagree with every word you just said.
That is
It is
so
absolutely obsolete. It is an editorial product that I should not be. There is no requirement in the Constitution there to fund some media property that I have to pay for. You say that streaming platforms cost money. YouTube has children's programming that is free. It has
Some
great
people don't
children's
have
programming.
reliable access to Wi-Fi. COVID showed us that. Like, I understand that the vast majority of people that have access to social media, seeing it across the globe, feel like this is the standard for everyone. But there are rural areas where Wi-Fi is limited or lack of access actually affects people. So
Elon
we've
Musk
seen
can
people-
beam
Well, tell
Wi-Fi
Elon Musk
into
to
the
help.
Ukraine battlefields. Well,
Instead of Elon Musk taking the money away from vulnerable people, maybe he should help then. That would be a great idea.
Elon Musk is
But
actually
since
doing
he
more to
hasn't-
provide internet service to people than.
But what about in America?
NPR.
What about in America? We use radio. That's what I'm saying. So you don't want people to have access to Amber Alerts. Let's say they don't have a phone. You don't want them to have access to severe weather alerts in the middle of the country where we could see a tornado or anything like. These are important information. This is important information. Like, you don't have grandparents that still keep the radio on, and that's how they find out what the latest is. Like, this is what NPR provides in local rural areas. And even though NPR will still exist as this federal website and a place where people can find national news, locally, if people don't have access to that Wi-Fi or don't get on the NPR website or have access to the channel anymore that was supplementing NPR, they won't be able to watch
Then I would say
PBS or NPR.
if there's truly some kind of market failure where there's some area that is cut off from information because it's too remote, we're talking about a very small number of people. But then I would say if the government has to do something, it should take that $1 billion and build more telephone poles or satellites or whatever is necessary to get coverage to get information to those people using the new mediums that we will be a part of instead of subsidizing a specific editorial product. In the same way, I would say, what if I prefer my information from Fox News? That's how a lot of my grandparents like to get their information. And if Fox wasn't making ends meet or something, would we ever say, okay, they should get $1 billion of taxpayer funding to get that information to the people who like to watch? I'm sure you would rebel against that idea, as would I, even though I like Fox and I'm on it sometimes, because I would never ask taxpayers to forcibly pay for something they don't agree with.
Well, I think that it has to be a conversation about what happens next.
Sesame Street or no?
No, you need to have some empathy for Sesame Street, okay?
I don't.
But the biggest thing for me is that there's not being something replaced with something. It's like, let's just cut this. This is what we as conservatives have been trying to do for years. Let's just do it and get it done. But to what end? So let's say there is a small, quote, that's your quote, population that is affected by not having access to this radio and this information. So what will it be replaced with? So they came with a policy, even if it was Republicans, I don't care who came with a policy that says this is what we'll do to replace the people that don't have access to information, to provide access like Wi-Fi access, or to make sure people have transportation access to get to the library. These are all solutions that I would be open to hearing.
If people
But I'm
value
not
it, they'll
hearing
pay for it.
anything. No, some people can't afford it. That's the problem. Some people cannot afford. And so that is what NPR and public broadcasting does, because it provides access to people who can't afford. There are less
I guess then the
people
local government
throughout our
has to
country.
raise taxes or has to, that's a task for the governance of the people in that area to figure out how to meet that need if it's a real failure. I don't see why that means I have to pay for the salaries of some Columbia graduates who hate my values and, want to enforce wokeness
No,
and
what
DEI.
you need to do as a
I have
leader
to,
in those
they're entitled to
areas
jobs. It doesn't make any sense.
propose a bill that shows how people will still have access to important, vital information, even if it was a choice system that will help subsidize. What is it that will give people? Is it a cable subscription? What would it be that would be
just give 'em a cell
subsidized
phone.
that give people? You said Trump could easily hand out. Let's say you take that 1.1 billion and hand out $1,000 or whatever to each person. Like that's
better.
something that seems better to you. Well, then he should propose it. There should be policies in the forefront that's like, okay, this is the plan. This is the way forward. But all I see is let's just cut NPR, cut all these international aid, and don't help anyone. That's just our state.
My view of government is it being very small and doing nothing. But if it has to do, I would rather just give, instead of these programs to, micromanage everything. Government's not very good at that. Government's not really very good at anything. Just if we have to do something, instead all the money they get, just like give it to people. Just like here's a direct aid transfer, and you're poor. Here's some money. Make your life better, and if you don't make your life better, oh well, we tried, but some people will better themselves. That is, I think, a better use of taxpayer dollars than here's some program we can build up because we like it and it has editorial views that half of America hates. It just seems stupid to me.
But you're discounting everything else. So there may be one NPR article that you didn't like, but you're discounting the educational program that
It goes a little beyond that. NPR said we will not cover the Hunter Biden story because we don't cover fake stories. That was making a choice that one of the important stories of that election cycle was not something they wanted to educate their readers about.
And there's always room for people to grow. They're human beings. NPR is not some entity that operates on its own.
It can do whatever it wants. I don't even want to argue about whether it's biased. I don't care.
Okay,
I just don't want to pay for it. It's just not my, I'm not going to be forced to pay for it because I don't agree with it.
Well, I think people should have an option at least and provide it with a different option.
I think if they want to pay for it, they can, and if they don't have to. Options is what I'm all about, Lindsey.
Next year is the final year for Stephen Colbert and The Late Show. But the host didn't hold back on mocking the network for the reasoning behind the cancellation. We'll dive into it after this. Stay with us.
Over the weekend, it sunk in that they're killing off our show. But they made one mistake. They left me alive.
So funny. The late night gloves are off. That's according to host Stephen Colbert. The comedian saying the next and final 10 months of his show will be unvarnished truth about how he really feels about President Trump. During Monday's monologue, he thanked CBS for being a great partner. The network saying the reason for canceling the show was, quote, a financial decision. But Colbert didn't hold back when mocking that reasoning earlier this week.
Over the weekend, somebody at CBS followed up their gracious press release with a gracious anonymous leak saying they pulled the plug on our show because of losses pegged between $40 million and $50 million a year. $40 million's a big number. I could see us losing $24 million, but where would Paramount have possibly spent the other $16 million? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course, Colbert is referring to the lawsuit settlement between Paramount and President Trump. The network paying $16 million after Trump filed a lawsuit claiming they misleadingly edited an interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes back in October. Colbert's cancellation is creating outrage from fans, several protesting outside the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City, calling for The Late Show to continue and Trump to be canceled. Colbert even getting support from other late-night hosts, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, and Jon Stewart, all making appearances this week in the audience, a show of solidarity between late-night show hosts.
But they, too, could find themselves in the hot seat. President Trump posted this to Truth Social saying, quote, the word is, and it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late-night sweepstakes, and shortly thereafter, Fallon will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent who were paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I played a major part in it. Now, actor and comedian Rob Schneider told reporters the late-night landscape is changing and that cancellations were bound to happen.
No offense, but they were going to go away anyway. So I think that was just... because people are looking on their phone now. I mean, they do watch Netflix, but they'll tell you Netflix, they'll watch for 2-3 minutes. If they don't like it, 30 seconds, they switch. So the attention spans are less.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, late night used to be the business of prestige, right? It was the big money business when there were less opportunities. And for context, like they said they lost 40 million. I think Amazon is spending 40 million on an upcoming documentary about Melania Trump. So that goes to show you new media is taking over in its own ways, and people are finding new ways to watch things. Now, I think Colbert is going to be fine. I think he's extremely talented and hilarious, as you saw. I was cackling right at the top of this story. It's very funny to me, but I do.
Laughter goes to die.
No, you tried to hold it in so bad. You like literally couldn't even control yourself. I know you think he's hilarious too. So I think he's going to be fine. But late night TV has to really look at itself as a landscape and say, what's the relevancy anymore, especially as younger generations turn, different ways to finding media, and older generations are, watching or not watching anymore. You have to think about what this next iteration of where the go-to platforms are. We saw that during the election. The go-to platforms aren't where they used to be.
Right. It's YouTube. That's the future of the world. It's YouTube. There's nothing else. It's YouTube. If Rising was losing $40 million a year, I hope someone in our corporate landscape would euthanize this program. If we had a staff of 200 people, he had a staff of 200 people. Can you even imagine that?
That was lovely.
I don't even.
So
I can't even conceive of how you would. There's almost too many people to make a show. You would lose track of who was doing what. We make it work on a fraction of that. We have a fantastic team here. Look, this was coming. The writing was on the wall. I find some of these people funny. Look, I'll admit I find John Oliver funny, even though I totally disagree with his politics. I think Jon Stewart is funny and also interesting. I don't think Stephen Colbert is very funny, and Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel I have never laughed at once in my life. That's just how it is. Fine, people may feel differently. This was going to change, and the idea that it's fine to show industry solidarity with all the other late night hosts being upset about this because they're friends and it's the industry. That's fine. Why? Tell me why. Why does every Democratic senator need to express some view that this is some travesty, like they consider themselves doing industry solidarity. Their industry, Democratic Party, is synonymous with late night. I mean, I think that goes to show you the problem that Elizabeth Warren is really worked up about this. Please retire from the Senate and appoint yourself head of programming at CBS then, if you feel so strongly about this.
I think it's more of the closeness to understanding that because of this Skydance merger, I believe, with Paramount, there is an interest in CBS or Paramount as a bigger company behaving in a way that's conducive to what President Trump would like, an ideal. And so by accepting a fault or just settling the lawsuit over the small edit in 60 Minutes, it was an egregious error, opening an endless door of a spiraling where networks continue to cower to the president. And so Elizabeth Warren probably less talking about this specific situation and more talking about the overall landscape of where we're going by sending this message that right after Trump doesn't like something and then you speak out about it, you get canceled. You can't help but tie the political dots or connect the dots there. But there's also truth too that the late night is dying and that, it's an industry that slowly is changing. And so I think both things can be true, but why politicians are getting involved is because a politician got involved first, which was President Trump, which makes it within their jurisdiction to have conversations about and be interesting to people. Now, what Colbert did is basically come at his employer on television often about multiple things. And that has been like this shtick for late night because management changes, right?
I would never do.
Yeah, management changes over time, and sometimes institutions stay the same. But when the institution is not making money and not bringing in the money that it used to, then it's not the authority or powerhouse that it used to be. So you need to also consider when you're working for a company that isn't your own, that perhaps there's rules you need to follow. And if you go too far, that your show can end or any job can end.
But people are asserting without a shred of evidence that this is about appeasing Trump, canceling a pro-Trump or an anti-Trump voice.
Trump almost connected himself to it.
Virtually
so
the same time this was announced, Paramount, I saw this news yesterday.
Okay.
Paramount has acquired streaming rights to South Park for $1 billion. South Park mocks Trump a lot. In fact, in much more vulgar terms than Stephen Colbert can get away with. Now, South Park also
mock everyone.
They mock everybody.
Yeah, that's important to point
They're
out.
actually funny, unlike any of these late night people. South Park is hilarious and as relevant as ever. So it's not about, but they make, they have their like Mr. Garrison, who's like is the Trump figure in the show. It's very critical of Trump, and it's fine. So I don't find it it could be to appease Trump, but nobody has any evidence of it. So I would like to see extraordinary claims have evidence to support them. And Elizabeth Warren, again, I brought her up, but huge hypocrite. Democrats who are mad about some network cowering to Trump, it's hypocritical because they want the networks to cower to them. I mean, they sent letters. I remember covering this. Democratic congressmen objecting to Verizon and Comcast and others platforming misinformation, platforming Newsmax and conservative media channels. They wanted to order those companies around about their programming choices. And now they're objecting to this company making a programming choice, maybe to have something connected to Trump. That's exactly what you do all the time. They want to be heads of programming. They want it to be unfriendly to Trump, and they're hypocrites.
We'll leave it there. You know I disagree.
Up next, Coca-Cola confirming they'll be selling soda made with real cane sugar. Maha blast. Stay tuned.
Mexican Coke will now be made in America? Yes, the Coca-Cola company said Tuesday that it will launch a version of its signature drink with American cane sugar. Go ahead, Robby.
The announcement came days after President Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "I have been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States, and they have agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority at Coca-Cola. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see, it's just better."
Coca-Cola Company said in a statement, quote, "As part of its ongoing innovation agenda this fall in the United States, the company plans to launch an offering made with U.S. cane sugar to expand its trademark Coca-Cola product range."
Coke produced for the U.S. market is typically sweetened with corn syrup. This is part of the Trump administration's push to make America healthy again by asking food companies to alter their formulations.
For Axios, Coca-Cola's decision to use U.S. sugar rather than imports will potentially benefit two states that dominate domestic sugarcane production, Florida and Louisiana, which is a great thing. I love this. It's so beautiful. I love Mexican Coke. It's delicious, brilliant. I can say good job on the president and his team.
Oh, how about that?
Make America healthy again. But it wasn't urgent. There's so many other urgent things that need to be done. I appreciate it. I'm going to be happy about it. I will indulge in it. And I think Americans should have a choice on transparency between corn syrup and something probably much more healthier for them. And that's important. But I also think there were a ton of things on President Trump's desk. And I don't understand. It's like he just kind of like throws a dart and says, "Oh, I'll go for that issue today." It's like, how does this end up on your desk as an urgent thing to get done within your first year?
So whenever there's some kind of problem, market failure, some kind of why is the company doing it this way, a way I don't like it, I always try to step back, learn more information, and find out, I bet if you get down into the nitty-gritty details, somehow this is the government's fault. And this is absolutely the case here. You're right, I agree with you. Mexican Coca-Cola tastes better. It's better with cane sugar than it is with corn syrup. But do you know, Lindsey, the reason that in America they make it with corn syrup is because of aggressive subsidies for corn, farm subsidies. The government makes it by direct money transfers to corn syrup, makes it cheaper to use corn syrup, that it wouldn't necessarily be cheaper if it was just competing on an open market. So I think it's fine that RFK Jr. has encouraged them to go back to using sugar, and sugar is better, but we actually didn't even need to encourage them or ask them or make them or do any of that. We could just stop having taxpayer dollars transferred to the corn industry to make our Coca-Cola worse. And as you, this benefits, Iowa and the corn states. Yeah, but if we don't do it instead, so this is benefiting, so we're subsidizing production to help certain states at the expense of other states. Oh, right. Now, if we do it this way, it'll help Florida and Louisiana instead. This is exactly the kind of thing the government should just stay out of completely. No need to subsidize one product to hurt another. No need to benefit farmers in this state versus farmers in that. Just let them compete in the market. And then if they find some way to make corn syrup cheaper, and you want cheaper Coke that has corn syrup, or you want more expensive Coke that has cane sugar, it just can be different market products. There is no need for government financial interference on this at all. And that's what I would like to get back to. Well, does that make sense?
It does. That actually blew my mind. I was like, I didn't know you were going to go on this. That's a brilliant tangent, but I loved it. But I think, the part that blows my mind is just trying to consider, I actually believe that President Trump just likes the taste of Mexican Coke.
Yeah.
And
We
so
all do.
made this
I like it better
no,
too.
but I made this a priority. And so that part like flabbergasted me because it's just like you said, if there's so much research that you have done that shows that this may hurt some people, may help other people, it just came down to a point of like, well, yeah, that's a good strategy. I like that taste. Let's just go forward with it.
Yeah.
Which makes one consider and question like, okay, so what other things are on your desk that we can solve simply that are probably a little more important than whether or not, because people can also drink water and probably or sparkling water and be a little healthier than Coke or any of these options.
I drink Coke Zero.
Well,
I drink
either
a
way,
fair amount of it. I drink a lot of. So weirdly, I don't love the taste of plain water. So I almost always drink. My fridge has Fresca, Sprite, ginger ale, Coke Zero, and Dr. Pepper Zero. I don't drink plain water. I drink
That's so
a lot
wild.
of Fresca.
I
drink
mostly
a lot
drink
of Fresca.
water plain and also
Plain water.
just juice because I have a child.
I drink
so it's just
juice.
lots of juice in the
I
house.
drink a lot of juice.
But I really barely drink sodas besides like when I'm on vacation. Then I'll
Yeah.
have like a Mexican Coke or something of that nature. So that's why I said I am pleased, but it is very random. You
I
to
have a
admit
lot of
it's
Fresca.
extremely
I
random.
hope Fresca is healthy for you because I drink a lot.
We're going
of
to find
Fresca.
out down the line of all these sweeteners
No.
what they actually do. And I think that's the good part about what RFK is calling out. I can find the nuance in what people are doing. So I think it is important that we do provide some kind of options and alternatives for people. But if it's all just fabricated and something that the government started anyway, it kind of just, okay, so what are we talking about?
We
You
do
know what I
got
mean?
we do got to get healthier. You know, I was just abroad. I was in Sicily, and ate a lot of great food. Ate a lot of food, a lot of croissants and pastas and seafood, and drink a lot of wine. And I don't know, there's just like you don't feel like lethargic and gross and overweight even after you eat a lot there for some reason. Whereas here you eat things and then you feel like you need to die. I don't know. There's something just different about the food elsewhere that I can't quite put my finger on. But I suspect it's the government's fault.
Everything's the government's fault.
Everything
for
is the
you.
government's fault.
But it's the ingredients, though, and that's the thing. I want to feel good after I eat, too. I love food, but it's the ingredients here. I've had friends in other countries tell me, we would never put some of those things that you guys are fighting for, like the red dyes in our food. And even when you go have candy in other countries, they ban those things. So why would we allow it for Americans? We have a longer conversation that we have to have.
I'm suspicious of banning things, though. I'm suspicious
of that. I like to overcorrect.
Yeah, well, that does it for us today on Rising Live. Go have a Mexican Coke for us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content, though, coming your way. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you can find podcasts.